Hi everyone, welcome to Off the Podium. I have a guest today from Atlanta, Caleb of the Chamber Cartel, right?
Yes, that is us.
Welcome to Off the Podium. How's Atlanta treating you?
Oh, it's great. It's great. I grew up here, so it's just like home to me. So weather's been nice. It's been actually a really mild June so far. So
Yeah.
it's not. I mean, I know we're only 8 days in.
Yeah.
So.
Uh,
But it's been really sort of mild weather as of late. So we like that because otherwise it gets really, really hot and just really humid,
Yeah.
humid and hot.
I've heard all these different names for ensembles and bands, but yours was one of the best ones I've heard. Where did that name come from?
Uh, the name came from, I'm a night person. I'm a night owl. I get most of my ideas between the hours of like midnight and 4 a.m.
Uh-huh.
And I was sort of charged with trying to start a new music group. It was about 2011, late 2011. And I was like, all right, I can do this. We got the players. Let's see, what's the name? I have to name it now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just racking my brain for days and days and days. And then just all of a sudden it came to me, just sort of a light bulb.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about different ways to name, because you see all these ensemble this and ensemble that. And I just, it sounded really, for me, it sounded kind of boring, And so I wanted to have something a little bit more edgier. And I was thinking, oh, wait, this is, and it really worked, Looked at the etymology of it and made sure it was, about a group and stuff, and it was great. So
the first thing that came to mind, I just recently watched a documentary on Pablo Escobar on Netflix, and that's the first thing that came to mind. I was hoping you would say that's the documentary I watched and then I named it, but I think the documentary came after your group was formed.
I should have watched that, but and I would still like to watch that. I enjoyed those kinds of documentaries. So.
Yeah. Well, tell me about the new music group. I read about it online, but tell me about what you guys do and what you've done so far over the past 5 or 6 years at this point.
Yeah, it's been. We're in our 6th season right now.
Uh-huh.
We started in 2012, and we've just been really, really, sort of working hard to expand, the contemporary scene in Atlanta, because there are some groups, and have been groups here in various, stages. But so what we do is we're like a how do you say it? It's like a I guess I haven't thought about this in a little bit, but so we're like a sinfonetta that is obviously modular. We have all of the instruments of the orchestra at our disposal, but oftentimes a concert will only use 3 or 4 or 5 of those instruments, or instrumentalists. So, I mean, we've gone to commissioning. We've done that. We've premiered. I can't even remember, how many different works, commissioned different works, and I mean, we've just been doing a lot of concerts in non-traditional venues to help, sort of get people that maybe don't consider contemporary classical music, maybe even they don't know about it, you know, so sort of to try and get them engaged in this, because, for me, I don't think this is a niche sort of like genre.
Yeah.
I think that it's for everybody. I think that we have people nowadays, they're just listening for something that is engaging and different. And so that I think that the music that we perform, which is, we go from minimalism to avant-garde, serialism. We've done everything in between. So I think that we have a very wide stylistic range that helps us capture as many people as we can.
What's the importance of commissions, would you say, for the 21st century? What's the importance? Why would you commission? There's so many pieces written. A lot of them are not even performed. Why would you commission stuff?
I think that within any art form, new creation is paramount.
Yeah.
I think to stay with current ideas and thoughts, we have to keep going. We have to keep finding new work or making our own. Mm-hmm. So I believe that commissioning is very, very important, and that's not something that we can. I think that ensembles that only play music that has already been performed, in a way, this might sound a little bit too harsh, but they're doing a disservice to the art form.
Yeah.
Because I think that we need to, continue. We need to always be pressing forward. There's no art is not supposed to be stationary. I don't think.
And and even back in the day, Beethoven and Romantic era, Classical era, people did premieres all the time, and then somehow classical musicians got stuck in the way where we'll do a commission every once in a while, and we have all these other composers that are much better than what we have now, so we'll perform their music but not commission. And what I hear often is, are there Mozarts of today, or are there Beethovens of today, from people who are not classical musicians? And what I'm trying to do with this podcast format is not only reach people who are obviously accomplished musicians like yourself or others that listen, but also people who are non-musicians, or people who are interested but don't know much. So what would you say? Are there Mozarts of today?
Yes, completely. There are composers. And the composers that we work with, I work with them not because I'm just like, I'm a slave, I'm slaving to them.
Yeah.
But because I believe in the work that they're doing, I believe in the sound that they're making.
Yeah.
And so yes, of course, I think that there are the Beethovens and Mozarts and the huge figures that were. I think that we have those in the makings today.
Yeah.
And I believe that there's just been pieces that just shake you to the core.
Yeah.
You hear and you're just like, oh my God, that's just like amazing, or that's the most beautiful sound I've ever heard. And it doesn't have to be this, I don't know, like a huge G major chord, or like it doesn't have to be tonality per se. We've sort of, I think, gone past that. But obviously not leaving it in the dust. But I think that we have such new available resources to us, new resources available to us that are just infinite. And so how could there not be the next Beethoven or the next Mozart? I think that's a lot of the time classical music looks to the past to get some sort of validation, and I think that is maybe not the right way to be facing in our art form. I think that if we look to the present or even the future, that's where we want to be sort of focusing our efforts.
You said you played at unconventional venues. I want to hear some stories, maybe, of some awesome places you've played. The one thing that came up was I think it was Jeff Harriet's piece. It was a cool venue. What was that? And maybe some other venues that you've played at you liked.
Oh yeah. Just so many places. So the Jeff Harriet piece. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name right now.
Tapestry.
Stone Tapestry, yes. The Stone Tapestry. Sorry about that, Jeff. So that was in a place called Goodson Yard at the Goat Farm Arts Center in Atlanta. And it is, currently they're not doing any concerts on their grounds. We've actually partnered with the Goat Farm for the past 3 or 4 seasons. And they help present us in various places around Atlanta. And that concert, so that is Goodson Yards. It's a sort of repurposed textile mill, and actually the whole Goat Farm grounds are that sort of a repurposed textile mill from, I believe, the turn of the 20th century. I think. I think they've got more information about it online. But it's beautiful brick buildings. That space is huge.
Yeah.
It is probably, I mean, I'm not a really good judge of distance, but I would say at least 200 feet long.
Wow.
And like 50 or 60 feet wide.
Yeah.
It's and because it used to have all those big machines for cotton and stuff like that, and sort of working that sort of mill aspect of it. And then they took all those machines out, and like the ceiling is like 40, 50 feet high.
Wow.
I mean, it's ridiculous. It's quite unbelievable. So that was one of my most favorite places to play in Atlanta. The one drawback, I mean, depending on how you look at it, was it was kind of an open air venue.
I see.
And so there's no air conditioning, of course. So the summer months could be quite hot. And then also there was a train that's the train tracks are about 20 feet from the back side of it.
I see.
So and there's trains always sort of going and coming. Not always, but you'll be in a nice moment of a piece, and the train will go by.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I kind of. It was. I guess because I'm attached to it, it became more endearing to me. Like, oh, there's the train again. And even though like the music kind of suffered in a way, in more of a concert setting, it made it more rich to me, the experience.
Yeah.
So there are trade-offs like that.
Yeah.
We've played in. We have a series now at Orpheus Brewing in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So we play in the brewery.
I was going to ask you about that.
Oh yeah. So that's really great. We've played. We just played in like we played in several art galleries, of course. I'm sure that there's other like more interesting things that I could talk about, but it's funny when you get asked a question. It's like, all right, well, now every idea just goes.
Well, tell me what got you interested in new music, because you probably started out playing in band as a percussionist or orchestra, and what inspired you or led you to want to form this group or even have an interest in new music?
Oh man, we're going back way back now. So excuse me. So yeah, you're right. I grew up in band. I did marching band in all my years of high school. In fact, I, for the longest time was not actually interested in music at all.
Yeah.
My mom's a pianist, and she was just really adamant about me getting into band in 6th grade.
Yeah.
Or, getting into any musical instrument. She didn't care what it was, if it was violin or chorus or what, piano. Yeah. She just said, you're going to play an instrument. And I was like, totally fighting it all the way. And so I was like, whatever, I'm just going to play drums. Because that was the only thing that sort of like really interested me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so fast forward through, the 3 years of middle school, which was nothing for middle school percussionists. And then high school, I get more into marching band. I'm really into, the technicality of it and, all that stuff. And then I decided my senior year of high school, this is after I tried out for the baseball team, which is really what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I was more like, I'm going to be a baseball player. Yeah. And I think no one really had the heart to tell me, like throughout my baseball, career in my early days, that I just wasn't really that good. And so I tried out for the high school team. I did not make it. And so then I, reconcentrated all my efforts into band because I was okay at it.
Yeah.
I was not the best.
Yeah.
There were several players in the percussion section a lot better than me, first chair and stuff like that. And so in my senior year of high school, I was like, well, I'm okay at this. Yeah. I can do some things. I think, I really enjoy it. Let's major in music. And so I got to Georgia State University, and Stuart Gerber was there. And, he had just got there when I started as well. So, he was doing, if you're not familiar with Stuart, actually Isaac studied with Stuart. So, Yeah, at Georgia State. And if you're not familiar with Stuart, he basically was Stockhausen's sort of go-to guy for his, percussion, sort of like anything he would do percussion-wise. I mean, in America, I think he had some other people in Europe, of course, but he was one of his really top players. Worked really closely with Stockhausen, and he was doing some contemporary. He did like contemporary recital when he came to Georgia State, and I saw the music in the practice room, and I just was just like, "What is this? Yeah. This is unbelievable! I can't believe music like this existed." Yeah. And so I just started like going down that path, and like I've always been one to never really think about what others think, and I think in music school a lot of the time there are many conservative opinions that sometimes stifle growth as opposed to let it grow. Yeah. Maybe more among the students than the teachers, but I don't know. That's a whole other topic for another time. Yeah. But anyway, so Stuart was the main conduit for me getting into contemporary music, and I began sort of really focusing on that. And his his curriculum was centered more around like the percussion ensemble works, more contemporary, of course. And Robert Ambrose at Georgia State, conductor, and now he's high up in the administrative level, I believe. He's still conducting, but he was a big proponent, just like commissioning music as well as getting us to play contemporary works and stuff. And so Georgia State was really formative for me to really get contemporary music under my skin and to really be interested in it. And then I went to Alaska to study with Morris Palter, and I mean he's just amazing teacher and colleague, and he just kept on pushing me into that direction. Of course, he's definitely a contemporary percussionist as well, and so it was my luck having these teachers that were more into contemporary music, because I've heard of other teachers that are maybe not so much into the contemporary music scene, and that's fine. They don't have to be. But I was just very lucky that I had those two teachers that pushed me in that direction. And so when I came back, I'd always sort of like in my Georgia State days, I had a percussion trio. I'd started a percussion trio, and we'd sort of commission things. I'd commissioned works in my undergrad days, from various composers at the school. So I'd always had an interest in generating, something trying to find that next thing, trying to find that music, right? And so when I came back, I wanted to do something. I actually didn't do much for a couple of years. I came back in 2009, and I was just sort of like hanging out, doing some gigs, working at a restaurant. Nothing really actually happening musically for me. I was giving maybe a solo recital or two, and then my friend Robbie Key, who at the time was board chair of iDrum, which is an arts organization in Atlanta. He was really instrumental in pushing me to do a chamber music series. And then, of course, I would have had to have started a chamber ensemble to do a chamber music series. And so he was really the guy that sort of pushed me off the edge. I've told the story a million times where I don't think I'll ever forget it. Probably we'd given a concert at the Goat Farm in the Warhorse sort of part of it, Warhorse Cafe, and afterwards we were talking about Xenakis and how I'd love to do a performance of Pleiad, which we actually did, and we will do this coming September. But he was just like, "Oh yeah, it'd be really great. You should start a chamber music series," And Robbie's just like really great, really encouraging, and super chill. He's probably the most chill person I know. But he's like, "Yeah, man, you should do chamber music series. And I was like, yeah, of course. And he said, you should do one a month, you know. And I was like, we're gonna. I mean, I probably said some expletive to him. You know, one a month. That's it's insanity, right? To do a chamber music like concert every month. That's just the preparation and everything involved. And so then, you know, I took that dare I took it to heart, and we did it. So our first season was 12 concerts every month: January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December.
Wow.
And and that, you know, we've since, you know, pulled back, of course, because that pace is just not good for anybody.
It's crazy. It's crazy. You said about your teachers, and you told us about a bit about the story, but give me some things that inspire you, even if they're not people, but things that inspire you, or even if there are people that inspire you to do what you do or have inspired you in your career that you haven't mentioned so far.
Like for me, it's usually not, you know, these monolithic influences. I don't think I get that. I get a lot of my influences from like small pieces here and there, from various interactions with people, and I mean, you know, artistic experiences, books and things. I mean, that usually happens. That like something will happen that'll spark a creative spark in me, and I go, oh, I need to do this. I got to do this, and it you know, pushes me down a path. I mean, I'm very grateful to all the people that have mentored me, you know, and still to this day sort of like corral me in certain ways, like no, let's go like this, Caleb, or like, you know, you need to do this. Like, oh yeah, I do, you know. So in some ways I feel, this is going to come off wrong, but I feel like, well, maybe I don't even know what I'm saying. Sometimes I feel like just like a fool, just kind of like walking around, just kind of like, oh, okay, this is really cool. Oh, this is neat, you know, like, I don't know. There's that edge between sort of genius and stupidity. Yeah.
Well, let's go back to the Chamber Cartel, because you have an exciting season coming up, and you have a composer in association. If you don't mind sharing some of the season or what you have planned, that'll be great, and maybe a little bit about the you know, the relationship with the composer that's going to be working with you.
Yeah, no, that's I'd love to talk about the season, of course. So Chamber Cartel is slightly different from other ensembles that we do a yearly concert season. We don't do a calendar year, or sorry, an academic year.
Oh, I see.
Season. So we usually start in about March or April, and we go until about October or November. Which actually arose because of when we were at the goat farm and things were not air conditioned or heated. You know, the winter months were actually more unbearable than the summer months. so that's kind of how that came about. So this season we are doing, actually it's kind of like a double season. So we have 6 concerts through the goat farm with our composer in association, who is Aaron J. Myers. And I guess I'll talk about Aaron first before I talk about the season. But so Aaron and I met at Sick Puppy, which is otherwise known as the Summer Institute for Contemporary Performance Practice at NEC. That's headed up by Steve Drury. It's headed up by Steve Drury, of course. And actually, Stuart's there most summers. I think sometimes he takes summer off, but or does some other things. But yeah, so Stuart's there. So I've done that program several times since 2008. And that's where we met. We actually sort of met through a mutual friend named Misha Salkine-Pearl, who's another composer. Aaron lives in Boston, and so does Misha. But Aaron lives in Boston, and we just sort of hit it off. He's composed a few pieces for us now. Before he was the composer in association for this season. One was a piano percussion piece called "But I'm Doing It Anyway." I think actually that was the only one he wrote for us. The other one was a piece that he'd already written. So anyway, but our aesthetics sort of have really really meshed, I think. He is influenced a lot by sort of, once again, just blanking, I apologize. So sort of wabi-sabi, that kind of, Eastern philosophy that just sort of takes everything in and makes his own sort of art from it. He's very stylistically, he's influenced stylistically a lot from a lot of different sources, and I think I really like that about his music. This piece actually, so you see these gongs with people on the podcast more. So this is for one of his pieces that we're going to be playing. We have our next concert, the June 17th concert, will be like a feature concert of his works, as well as a piece by Stephanie Lubkowski, who's also a Boston composer. So, so Aaron and I have gotten along just swimmingly from the get-go, and he was just the next sort of logical choice, because I in curating these composer and association positions, I do want to sort of switch people's focus from year after year into different things, because obviously Mark Yates' music is incredibly virtuosic, and oftentimes he, out of anybody I've ever heard, maybe rivaled by Feldman. He treats his music like painting. Like you can just hear the brush strokes, and it's really, really amazing what he gets out of music. With Aaron, it's more like Mark's music is more of like looking at a canvas on a wall. Right? And Aaron's music is more like studying the details. In like a piece of pottery that's been put together by various things. I think that is I like that analogy for Aaron's music. So with this season, I really wanted to go for the for this season. I really wanted to think about the extra part of music, sort of like the thing that the reason why we listen to music, right? The reason why pieces affect us. It's not because, I really liked that chord progression. That was really cool. It's there's something else that is attached to a piece of music that we just somehow tap into, and I don't know how that is, right? Of course, if I did, I'd be a millionaire. So with this season, which I love and entitled The Unnameable, we're doing 6 concerts, and each of the concerts has pieces on it that touch into that aspect of humanity, that the unnameable aspect that is there, but you can't really put your finger on it. It's just like awe-inspiring, but you don't know what it is. Which, I get that feeling from Aaron's music, and that's why he's our composer association for this year. But we have 6 concerts. We've already had 2. So we had one in April, part of the Atlanta Sound Now Festival, which is a new festival that I'm on the board for. Then we had one concert in May that actually was just sort of 2 weeks ago, last week, May 27th, where Anthony D'Onofrio wrote us a new piece that was 2.5 hours. And that was sort of like it was just a really nice meditative piece. Had elements of Feldman in it. So this next concert will feature Aaron's music, and then in August we will feature our pianist Amy Odell with some pieces, and a new commission by Monica Pierce who's a Canadian composer. And in November, yes, sorry, that's 5. So, sorry. In November, we'll be hosting a sort of a social event party sort of thing where we'll premiere 2 new pieces by Michael Vincent Waller, who's in New York, as well as Armando Bajolo, who's in D.C. Both of them have written, larger pieces for us for that evening. So we're really looking forward to those 5 concerts, and I guess I miscounted it earlier. So 5 concerts. But we're actually doing another season through Orpheus, and I'm really excited about it. It's Jason, the brewmaster at Orpheus, who's a musician, and I went to school with, actually, at Georgia State. I think maybe Isaac might know him as well. Anyway, so we were, I guess, charged to do a new music series there at the brewery, and we've done some really cool things. We did Strange and Sacred Noise by John Weaver Adams, which is an excellent percussion quartet. We've done, we will do Pléiade in September, which will be just phenomenal. And let's see here, what else? We've done so many cool things there already. I'm really looking forward to the rest of the season. 2 concerts in July, and then a concert in October and September. So 4 more concerts for that one. So busy.
This is a favorite question of mine. What do you do outside of music? Do you have time for other activities? Maybe a hobby or a sports league or...
Well, let's see here. I really enjoy reading. I like reading about different subjects. I enjoy watching Netflix, just sort of vegging out sometimes because I'm always sort of like going. So it's nice to sort of relax a while. Going to the movies, like that's fun for me and my girlfriend. And we've really recently gotten into bowling.
Oh, okay.
That's
something I'm terrible at. I don't know how to.
I don't know. I think the people that are good, I think that they, we're just blessed with it.
I've tried different techniques. I go fast, I go slow. I just can't do it.
It's really probably just for the drinking.
What can we do as artists? And this is kind of a broad question, but what can we do as artists to make the music scene more vibrant, and maybe the music scene in general, but also the new music scene? Because what disappoints me, what depresses me, is going to concerts that are free sometimes, amazing musicians playing some wonderful music by new composers, young composers, but the attendance is low. What can we do to make it more vibrant? What can we do?
I've been struggling with this, of course, since I began Chamber Cartel, because I think as musicians we're sort of brought up in we're brought up in a bubble, right? We're trained in a bubble where people, like, we give concerts, we train to give concerts, and that's kind of what we do, but we don't actually get into like the how to get people out. So I found that what makes people excited is if you're excited. Like, you have to be engaged in your work, and if you're not engaged in your work, then and by engaged, I mean, yes, you have to tell people about it. You have to want people to come. You have to be overjoyed that you're doing the work that you're doing. Otherwise, just in the society that we live in, that so many bells and whistles going off, so many flashing lights, you're going to be drowned out. And I don't think we can take like sort of the sage's path anymore, just like quietly waiting to be realized. I think that we have to find a way to engage our audience by putting stuff out there, social media. We have to be better at talking about music to people, which of course is a difficult thing. We have to be better at describing. So many times people are like, tell me what do you do? And it's like, oh boy. Well, because we think that these people that are not musicians, that they have to have the background that we have, and they don't. What they need is they need an access point. That's what they're asking for. Whenever they're asking about your music, they want to connect with you, and we have to be better at connecting with people. We're so good at connecting with people through our instruments and through our music. We have to connect by people, right? We have to. We can't be introverts anymore. I don't know. I think that I do think that there is maybe a trend with classical musicians that we're kind of like the tortured artists, and I get that. Like, I get that way too. But when we're talking about our art and when we're talking about it to other people, we have to be engaged, and I think that is the most important thing. Yeah. Just engaging with the audience, or engaging with who you want to come. Is it 30-somethings that you want to be at your concert? Like, who do you want to be at your concert? You have to sort of like find a market. We have to like have marketing courses in our music classes. We have to know how to market this stuff, because like we're being just beaten, to the punch by all these other things that people can do. And we have to, really relay the importance of what we're doing, because we're not just like, oh, we play instruments, we're going to make a concert, it's going to be fun. Like, it really has to be engaging. You don't go see art because it's fun. I mean, well, yes you do. I mean, you see it because you enjoy it. That's so fun was not the right word to use in that sentence, but you go to see art to be affected. Right? I want people to come to my concerts to be affected by the music that we're playing in some way. It could make you happy, it could make you sad, it could move you spiritually, it could, I don't know, something. I'm not going to tell you what to feel, but I don't want you to come to my concert just to like listen to some music. I want you to come and experience it with me.
And that's something that really happens when you're there live and listening to it. Of course, recordings are great and very important for various reasons. And of course, sometimes we can't be at a certain concert, so it's great to have a recording to listen to. But it's very important to go out and experience these amazing artists live, because it's just a completely different experience. We were all young at some point, and trying to understand if we want to do music or not, and you went through that yourself. But what advice would you give to young musicians? Maybe musicians that are just coming out of college and are struggling with some of the things that maybe you've struggled with. What advice would you give them? Or what advice would you give yourself at like 21, 22?
What advice am I still giving myself now? I think that if anything at all, because I've seen so many people, get degrees in music, and then they just kind of like, that was nice. And then they go on to something else, which is great, but they could have spent that time focusing on the thing that they went on to. So I think what it is my advice to anybody, not just musicians, is to know yourself, right? Know, like, what if you get down to yourself, then you'll find out what you actually want, right? And if because I think so many times as musicians, a lot of us, maybe they start out like me, that's like, oh, music is cool, let's try this, and then they go through the whole process, and then they are disillusioned from like what the outcome's going to be. Like, they're going to get out and they're going to like be this major star. I don't know what, I'm not sure what goes through those other people's heads, of course, but I think that they went through, being a musician, sometimes because that's what they know and that's popular, but it's not what they really want to do. And the only way to, like, I think, make yourself happy is to know yourself and know what makes you happy. And not go out by others, sort of maybe others' perception of what makes you happy, or some sort of convoluted way like that. But yeah, like, just knowing yourself, because once you do that, then everything just like sort of opens up and it becomes clear. I really think that's, and especially that with art, like with your art, like what do you want to do? Well, what affects me? I mean, if you know yourself, then you'll know how to affect other people, I think.
Yeah. Well,
that's my working theory, at least.
That was great, Caleb. Thanks so much for joining me. You have anything else you want to share with us?
There are so many things, but I know you got a small amount of time, so...
No, we can go on. That's the great thing about this. Go ahead.
Just so many cool things. It's one of those things, like, you're put on the spot again, and you're just like, oh.
Yeah. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is people have to come and check out your concert series. We're in Atlanta, and hopefully the next concert will be a big success. When is the next concert again?
It is Saturday, June 17th at 8 p.m. At Suka Artist Development Studios in Scottsdale, Georgia.
Yeah. Since we talked about recordings, I realized that you've done some recordings as well with the Chamber Cartel, correct? Tell me a little bit about that and how those came about and why you picked the composer you picked and all that.
Well, so we've got 3 sort of recordings out, right? And our first sort of full-length CD was Mark's music, The Shape Distance, which was written for us. And that was just a great experience. It was our first time in the recording studio. So fun. Because it's 7 different solos sort of played simultaneously. And so we were able to play around with, that. If you get a chance, listen to The Shape Distance 11.
Okay.
It's unbelievable. It's Connor Way on harp, who's actually a composer, who's going to be doing his doctorate in Princeton, I believe, this coming year, and then Amy Odell on piano, and just the magic in that track is phenomenal. Yeah. That was recorded live, by the way. Both tracks recorded live at the same time. It wasn't like studio magic or anything like that. So love that one. And then Adam Scott Neal, we did a disc with him, Interiors. He was wanting to do a disc, and we've been good friends since undergrad days. I mean, I've known him since probably 2001 or 2002, and we wanted to play his music. We played his music several times, and he had just written Keys, the piano percussion duo. Earlier that year for us, and we wanted to get that down because we really enjoy it. So yeah, that was really fun. And then Connor wrote us a piece called "A Million Acres of Sky," which is just beautiful. Jessie Lane is the soprano on it, and she just does a great job. Just it's gorgeous. It's really one of my favorite pieces that we've commissioned. So. All those were great. We're actually going to work on a CD of Aaron's music coming up, and I'm always scheming. So I always have plans in the works, and there's always things that I'm trying to get done, and thinking about for next time.
One more question that I came up with a set of questions and then our conversation kind of leads to different places. But one thing that I just realized that I had a note for were the musicians in your ensemble. How do you get them to play in the ensemble, and maybe about some of the connections and relationships, whether it was through school or through various gigs that you've done?
Well, so it is mostly all my friends, of course. They're all friends of mine. And I've known most of them for a few years now. And I mean, getting people to play in an ensemble is fairly easy. All you have to do is ask, right? Yeah. That's kind of the audacity.
Well, it depends on the repertoire and the mission, I guess. Because one thing I've noticed here in Seattle, and it's probably it's very unique city in this way, Seattle, is that there's so many community orchestras here. And it's great for various reasons, but at the same time, when a new community orchestra gets started, or there's a new conductor and they're trying to do more recruitment and get some players, people are like, it's like the same thing I'm doing in this group, so why would I why would I do another group? You know, I already have one of these that I'm doing. So it's a lot of the same kind of repertoire kind of circulating through these different orchestras and community orchestras. So it's sometimes even gets tough to get musicians to do some of these because, you know, it's something they already do or they've done and they just don't want to do it. So sometimes the mission and the goals of an ensemble are important. You're having an easier time because you have a very unique approach and the music is exciting and new. And the mission, I think, in a lot of these are important. So I just hope that some of these organizations, whether it's community orchestra or youth orchestra or whatever it might be, I just hope that people could spend a little bit more time really kind of formulating the mission and the goals of the organization. So whether it's musicians interested in it or non-musicians just wanting to have a new experience, they could read about it or hear about it and find it exciting enough to listen to it. We can't just keep doing a lot of the same things that we do. That's the thing, you know, and that's the reason why, you know, this Chamber Cartel is great. And just reading about it, if I'm ever in Atlanta, I've been there once, but if I'm ever there, yeah, I'll definitely check it out because the mission, the goals, and the repertoire that's picked is exciting. I mean, I find it exciting, so I want to experience that.
Thank you.
So hopefully more organizations will not do the same thing that you're doing. Just do something that's unique or something that brings something new to the table, you know?
Right. I think that we're in a really cool time in Atlanta, yeah, because I mean, we don't have a history of having too many new music ensembles, yeah, here. Yeah. You know, we've had a few in the past, of, yeah, course, in the 80s and 90s. With Tamarisk New Music was one of them. I think the main one, actually. And then Bid Frequency came along. Bid Frequency is still going on. Jan Baker and Stuart Gerber are doing amazing work, and I really admire what they're doing. And then Sonic Generator came along. And then it was us, and then Terminus, and so really, I mean, we only have like 4 real, you know, large contemporary music, yeah, groups. I mean, there might be more, of course. I mean, it's a large city, yeah, so, you know, I could be missing some, but in the circles that I run in, which is most of the new music community in Atlanta, yeah, you know, so we don't have a lot of saturation. Yeah. So we can, you know, a lot of the pieces that we have played have, you know, undocumented, of course, but been like the first time Atlanta audiences have heard of, yeah, you know, yeah, the piece. You know, what it could be, you know, a big piece like Le Marteau, or we did Hans Zimmer's The Brightest Form of Absence, which was just a phenomenal experience. We did Tongues, you know, by Jason Eckert, and those are the first times that those people's music, those composers' music have been in Atlanta, and yeah, I really enjoy that. I really like taking, you know, something that hasn't been performed and then showing people like, this is really interesting. This is what, you know, Atlanta culture is missing, I think. Yeah. But we also have a great amount of composers here. Yeah. And we like to support them, you know, like Nick Demas and Stephen Wood. And, I mean, there's just countless composers, yeah, here that are really cool. So we're in a unique position, I think, that we have a sort of, is burgeoning the word? Yeah. Burgeoning, yeah, scene? I think it is, yeah, yes. You know, it's just sort of like coming into its, yeah, own. I think, yeah, that, you know, there was a scene before, and I think that our presence, hopefully, is lifting that up as, yeah, well.
Well, thanks, Caleb.
Thank you, Tigran.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I feel like we got a lot of conversation going here. It was, yeah, definitely interesting. So hopefully, you know, if you're ever interested in doing this again, you're welcome to join me anytime. Just let me know.
Thank you.
Love to chat with you more about this, and good luck with the season, and I'll include a link to your Chamber Cartel on this podcast so people could check it, great, out. Thank you so much.